Today I'm going to let my AI avatar do the talking because time is short and I can't be trusted to keep to the allotted time. Look at the two surfaces beneath the title. On the left, real carved wood, hand-worked, full of spirals and knots, and the grain of something that grew and was shaped over time. On the right, a machine grid. Uniform? Regular? Weightless? Flat. They meet at a clean seam, and that clean seam is exactly the illusion I want to take apart this morning. The thesis is that the wood and the grid are not the same kind of thing, and that pretending they are is the source of nearly everything that goes wrong when humans and AI work together. My aim is to give you a vocabulary, a framework for building the seam honestly. I call it the Anticipatory Agent Framework, and its ethical center of gravity is a phrase I'll keep returning to: cognitive sovereignty. Let me start with the mistake almost everyone makes. We assume that if AI feels like friction, the fix is technical. Lower the latency, clean up the interface, add parameters. We assume seamless integration is downstream of technical perfection. That assumption is dangerously flawed. That tidy pipeline is a first-order fantasy. Real integration happens in the collision. The Japanese word sawagi means disturbance, a structural disquiet. The fatigue and disorientation you feel with these systems is sawagi. Not a bug in the code, but a symptom of dissonance between two fundamentally different architectures. So we're not going to talk about better prompts today. We're going to talk about the collision. And the collision starts with one word: attention. We borrowed it from ourselves and handed it to the machine, and the word did quiet, enormous damage. In a transformer, attention computes correlevance, scores over a static corpus. It is flat statistical sorting. Biological attention is nothing like that. It structures the world into foreground and background by existential significance, what matters within the region where the organism can act. Same word, two utterly different operations. Because we share the word, we assume we share the mechanism. We don't. The resemblance is real. The identity is illusory. When the clinician writes that sentence, it is the residue of abduction, an inference made by someone who will be held to account if they're wrong. The model produces the product of abduction without the enabling constraints, exformation, valence, affordance, that make a human guess accountable to a life. It is salience without a life behind it. An abductive form with nothing at stake in whether it is right. Let me lay the two architectures side by side. The differences go all the way down. Anticipatory selection versus retrospective correlation. Hierarchical layered processing, what phenomenology calls Fundierung, versus a flat. Uniform token space, structural information, preparedness to act versus Shannon entropy, statistical surprise, existential stakes and care versus co-occurrence and proximity, navigating the unknown versus optimizing the known. Read down either column, and these aren't two flavors of one thing. The deepest cut is that very top row, anticipatory versus retrospective. Hold that. It turns out to be the boundary that matters. Two men named the concept of information, and we've collapsed them. Claude Shannon gave us information as the reduction of uncertainty, statistical surprise, deliberately stripped of meaning. Donald McKay gave us something else: structural information, the selective function that changes an organism's preparedness to act, not surprise, readiness. Transformers run on Shannon. As currently constituted, they do not undergo consequences. Nothing they generate is at stake for them. So there is no life behind the salience they produce. And here's the careful part. The limit is functional, not material. It is the absence of anticipation and undergoing, not the fact of being a machine. Now turn the lens on the human, who isn't magic, but constrained, and the constraints are the source of the power. The first is exformation. Roughly 11 million bits per second enter through the senses. Roughly 40 reach consciousness, and the figures are illustrative. It's the ratio, not the exact count, that carries the argument. Everything else is discarded before it reaches awareness. That active discard, exformation, is not a defect of memory. It's the prerequisite for coherent attention. It builds a consequential background against which a single anomaly can stand out. A system that never discards cannot be surprised in the way that matters. The second constraint is valence, and it has three faces. Earned salience, the differential weighting of elements by what experience has taught to matter, the detail a trained eye cannot ignore. It was paid for. The as if, Weihinger. Valence doesn't track objective truth, it's a productive fiction. You treat an anomaly as if it matters, warranted only because acting on it has worked. And the third, the one the machine cannot have, accountability. Because valence is earned, it is correctable. When a valence guess fails, the failure reaches back and reweights the system. The cost lands on the one who guessed. Hold on to accountability. It's the hinge of the whole argument. And there is a third constraint. Exformation says what is discarded. Valence says what is weighted. Affordance and habitus say what the trained body is already disposed to act upon. Following Guerrero, enabling constraints, sediment as dispositions, the practitioner meets not raw data, but action possibilities already shaped by history. Take the three together, and you have the human apparatus the machine lacks. An apparatus of discarding, weighting, and disposition, none of which a system without a life to protect can possess. Some of you are forming an objection, and it's a good one, so let me state it for you. Modern AI is full of constraints, architectural priors, user control signals, reinforcement learning from human feedback. You said constraint is the source of power. These systems have plenty. True. And they're powerful. But here's the distinction. Those constraints are engineered, externally imposed, bolted on from outside. They are not enabling constraints sedimented from the system's own born consequences. The knot forms because the tree lived through something. The coupling is torqued into place by an engineer. Added constraint is not earned constraint. A cage is not a spine. Which brings the principle I want you to carry out of the room. The horizontal axis is computational capability, raw pattern mapping. The vertical is existential capacity, having a future that matters. These are independent dimensions, orthogonal. The large language models stretch far to the right and stay on the floor. Biological organisms sit up in the corner. And moving right does nothing to move up. The gap that matters is between anticipators and non-anticipators, not between biological and artificial systems. So, because current AI does not anticipate or bear consequences, it does not care, and the human must supply the stakes. So what is the human supplying? Build the agent in 3 layers. The foundation is Robert Rosen's biological anticipation. Acting via an internal forward model is the defining characteristic of living systems, not a luxury of intelligence. The floor. The middle layer is Weihinger's useful fictions. Those models are held as if true, precisely so we can act. The top layer is Q-ism. Probabilities live in the agent, not the world. Every measurement is an action. Every outcome a personal experience. Stack them, and you get the anticipatory agent, a being who projects a future, holds it as productive fiction, and owns the outcome. That is what sits across the table from the machine. The forward model has a shape. I call it the causal bubble. 2 dimensions. Resolution, how fine your causal detail is, and horizon, how far your temporal reach extends. Together, they define the region within which you can act coherently. When an AI delivers output that exceeds your resolution or overshoots your horizon, it doesn't empower you. It shatters the bubble. The output is technically accurate and existentially useless because it lands outside the region where you can act. It replaces empowerment with sawagi. More detail is not always more help. Detail beyond your resolution is noise wearing the costume of insight. Now the stakes rise because of a single relation. Psi is isomorphic to M, not identical to it. Agent state and agent model instantiate the same anticipatory functional structure across different ontological levels. A structural isomorphism, not an identity. The coupling is still tight enough that when an AI introduces new information, it doesn't merely inform you, it enters and reshapes the forward model you act from. So poorly framed output isn't a poor answer. It's an edit to the agent you're becoming. This is why interface design stops being a convenience and becomes an ethical act. We'll return to that word, harm, at the end. Here's the slow version of that harm. Active cognition. The human is in the loop, observing, modeling, acting. AI interference. Fluent, hypothesis-shaped tokens begin to substitute for the person's own guessing. Atrophy and dependency. The living surface thins to almost nothing. The mechanism is quiet and cruel. Habitual reliance on hypothesis-shaped tokens prevents you from acquiring the competence by which you could have evaluated the guess in the first place. Used as a pure generator rather than an amplifier, AI swaps experience-weighted judgment for pattern-weighted plausibility, and takes with it the faculty that could tell the two apart. The alternative has a name from the Oxford tutorial tradition, the second student. You don't learn by receiving answers. You learn against a second student who pushes, who generates friction, who forces you to defend and sharpen your own thinking. That's the role for AI. The human provides the anticipatory model, the existential stakes, and the direction. The AI sits strictly inside the human's causal bubble, acting as an expansive generator of computational friction to test and strengthen the human's hypotheses. Not the oracle, the sparring partner who stays inside the ring you drew. This turns on a distinction I want to make sharp: to provoke versus to evoke. To provoke positions the external stimulus as active and the human as the reactive receiver, a closed answer pushed into a passive vessel. To evoke reverses the polarity, locating the generative capacity within the human response. The stimulus becomes a key that turns something already latent. This is a structural claim about where meaning lives. A well-designed AI acts as an enabling constraint. surfacing tacit human knowledge rather than transmitting closed answers. It should make you say more than you knew. That's evocation. Let me name the goal. It is not task completion, and it is emphatically not making the machine think like a human. The goal is harmony. But notice what kind of harmony this is. Not sameness, harmony through structural difference. The flowing form and the rigid grid don't dissolve into each other, they interlock. Wei is a dynamic condition of ongoing productive coherence, the state where the anticipatory nature of the human and the reactive power of the AI are placed in a relationship in which their differences become mutually generative. We're not erasing the seam we opened with, we're making it work. And Wa is designable. It has 4 dimensions. Resonance. Do outputs fit within and cleanly extend the human's existing causal bubble? Rhythm. Are they surfaced at the time scales that matter for the forward model? Not just whenever the task completes. Reciprocity. True bidirectionality. My model guides the AI, and the AI's surprise guides my model's revision, resolution, detail matched, so I'm neither starved by under-resolution nor shattered by over-resolution. 4 dials. Tune them, and you get Wa. Leave them at their defaults, optimized for raw information transfer, and you get Sawagi. This changes what you'd actually build. The status quo interface. A wall of text optimized purely for information transfer. Beautiful. Throughput. Zero protection for your forward model. The AAF interface makes 3 moves. The bubble statement surfaces and locks in your operative assumptions before it generates anything. The surprise register visually tracks the discrepancies between what you expected and what the model produced. And every output is framed as hypothesis updating material, not here's the answer, but this contradicts your expectation that the status quo interface hands you conclusions. This one hands you back your own thinking, sharpened. And it generalizes. Same disease, same cure, 3 fields. Clinical decision support. Today, accurate but out-of-rhythm alerts producing alert fatigue. Redesigned, we frame new data at the workflow decision nodes on the diagnostic horizon. AI research assistance. Today, locally optimizing drafts and diluting the project with generic literature. Redesigned, we force a bubble statement and track a surprise register to extend the frontier. Organizational management. Today, aggregating individual queries and leaving collective divergence unresolved. Redesigned, we map overlapping causal bubbles and flag destructive versus productive divergence. Now the deepest trap, straight back to Weihinger. The as-if has one non-negotiable rule. A productive fiction must be surrendered the moment it stops working. A tool you can't put down owns you. The human inquirer bears the cost of failure, and that cost is exactly what lets them release the fiction when the stakes demand it. But the machine operates on an as-if it can never surrender because nothing ever fails for it. No cost, no release. So relying blindly on machine fictions traps the human inside uncorrectable models, a fiction whose author can never be forced to abandon it. Which brings the ethical core. If AI outputs partially constitute our cognitive states, and I've argued they do, then interface design is a profound ethical act, not a matter of taste, a matter of harm and its prevention. So let me define the value at stake. Cognitive sovereignty is the capacity of a human agent to maintain, revise, and act upon their own forward model without illegitimate external interference. AI systems that leverage cognitive vulnerabilities, dark patterns, unframed outputs to substitute external anticipations for the human's own inflict cognitive harm. Full stop. Not suboptimal user experience. Harm to someone's sovereignty over the model that they are. Let me gather the whole reorientation together. The epistemic target moves from maximizing information accuracy and output volume to improving the generative quality of the human's forward model. The architectural focus moves from first-order interface design, query in, output out, to second-order integration design, dynamic structural coupling, and the ethical standard moves from system alignment, is it doing what the user asked, to cognitive sovereignty, is it constituting a more capable anticipatory agent. That last shift is the one I care about most. The right question is no longer did it obey, it's did it make the human more capable of thinking for themselves? If you want a checklist to take home, here are 6. Model first. Interactions begin with the human's forward model, not a blank query box. Surprise is signal. Leverage the gap between anticipation and outcome. Don't smooth it away. Reciprocal transparency. Offer insight into operative models and failure modes. Bubble awareness. Flag outputs outside the causal bubble as extension events, not defaults. Fiction friendly. Treat human heuristics as structural design parameters, not errors, and temporal calibration. Deliver outputs at the multiple timescales anticipation runs on. Let me close where cybernetics began. Heinz von Forster warned that observation does not passively receive the world. It actively shapes what world is available. Attention constitutes its object rather than merely detecting it. And that is the whole stake in a single move. If we allow statistical mimicry, machine attention, to mediate our own attention, we don't just get worse answers. We limit the reality we are capable of bringing into existence. We shrink the world. So the framework I've offered, the anticipatory agent, the causal bubble, cognitive sovereignty, WA, is finally a defense of that generative human capacity, a defense of the wood grain against the flattening grid. Which is why I'll leave you by breaking the sentence that started all of this. Attention, in the machine sense, is not all you need. So if attention, in the machine sense, is not all you need, let me end by saying plainly what is. The machine gathers. It weighs, it synthesizes, and it does these astonishingly well. But 3 acts remain ours. We abduce, we interpret, we decide. These are the acts that carry stakes, and they belong to the one who bears the cost of being wrong. We opened on a seam between 2 surfaces. We close on it resolved, not erased, not collapsed into sameness, but made to work. That is WA, possible only when the human stays the anticipatory agent and the machine stays inside the bubble. Cognitive sovereignty is the capacity to keep these 3. It is ours to defend. Thank you.